So today we're going to be talking about Rocket League, a game I've been playing for 2 years, and a game that pretty much started my Xbox One experience. It's also a game that I haven't stopped playing since. Specifically though, I'm going to be talking about the new storm of the Rocket League community, the recent deal with Epic Games where they bought Rocket League. As someone who doesn't rely on YouTube and Rocket League for my living, unlike some other YouTubers, I thought I could look at this from an objective perspective and give an unbiased point of view. I'll be discussing the YouTubers' opinions, the problems and the pros of this deal, and what I think is a constant consumer of Rocket League content. And with the reason for why I'm doing this out of the way, let's get into some research I've been doing. I've had a look at a few websites, articles, opinions, and of course other YouTube videos. I'll first be discussing the most important questions on everyone's mind. The first issue I thought I'd address is the question of whether or not it'll be supported for Steam anymore, because for an average consumer like me, I'd rather use Steam that everyone trusts to download and launch my games than Epic Games, who I only know as a company that makes games. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure their security is pretty good, although some people have questioned that.
Apparently their security is shit. So I need to do more research on that.
I think it's just better to have something I know, rather than having to switch. You could call that bias, but I don't think so. I think it's the fear of something new. So when they announced Epic had bought the game, I was also confused if they were going to keep it on the Steam store. And according to a few sources, they haven't said any plans about removing it. However, they had a very vague interview in which they said, "We are continuing to sell Rocket League on Steam, and have not yet announced any plans to stop selling the game there. Rocket League remains available for new purchases on Steam, and long-time plans will be announced in the future." That doesn't sound very set in stone that they will keep it on Steam. However, I think it is possible they may keep it on Steam, since now they earn revenue off Rocket League anyway. They also said in another interview that they would not be removing it from the store until the transaction is complete around late 2019, which basically means they have some people thinking different things. Some want it off the Steam store, some don't. Or they're unsure what to do with it, and yet just had a few spare, undisclosed amount of millions of dollars. But in terms of my opinion, I think that it will stay on the Steam store, although they haven't said anything about removing it not being an option, and if it doesn't, then they will lose a lot of players, but I don't fully know about that one. A lot of articles such as this one saying that they hinted it being removed in the end are secondary sources. And since there is no way of me getting it straight from the horse's mouth, I cannot give you a definitive answer, but I would say it's unlikely they fully remove it from the Steam store, or they at least keep giving updates for it. One thing I saw that quite scared me though was them saying, "Steam users will continue to receive patches, DLC, and all other content that hits the PC version of the game, only through the Epic Games Store," which basically means you would have to go to the Epic Games Store to update your Steam version of Rocket League. I think that would be too hard to implement for them, but if that's true, then it could be a disaster. The reason we want to keep our Steam versions is not only the stuff and the fact that we paid for the game, but also it's just a lot of effort to download a new installer, and we trust Steam. Gamers aren't known for putting effort into anything. Then you're saying we're gonna have to move to the Epic Store to update the game and get continued DLCs. I get that that's the reason you bought the game, so you could get revenue from it, but I've never been a fan of forcing people to do things, even if it's for my personal gain or theirs. So if they do force it upon people, I'd be disappointed, but at the same time I can understand it from a business standpoint. However, that is one of the reasons people didn't like them buying the game, is that we would have to change launchers. I think that's the loudest concern people have had, judging by the amount of articles and posts on it. However, I would like to balance my argument, and as such I will be sprinkling in some of the pros of Epic buying the game, one of which being the money. With money comes more things, more money to pay more developers, which means more content, more frequently, which is something Rocket League has struggled with in the past. It means that with the money, they don't have to struggle to get updates out anymore. They can just get fresh content out for us Rocket League players. It also means they don't have to recycle ideas anymore. Some events were new, and some new features came out every now and again, including crates coming out with the new season, but those crates now might come out faster, which I would like to see. I don't explicitly know if the season length will change, but I assume it would be more scheduled, or even may become faster. It's not all glory though, because one thing I've seen a few YouTubers discuss, but not many, is the questionable treatment of Epic's employees. I found a few articles that said, current and former employees say they regularly worked in excess of 70-hour weeks, with some reporting 100-hour weeks. Now, that's a lot of overtime for someone, and that was one of the problems the community had with this, with even one of Epic's employees coming out and saying, "The company gives us unlimited time off, but it's almost impossible to take that time. If I take the time off, the workload falls on other people, and no one wants to be that guy." Now, the fact that they get unlimited time off is nice, but if they can't take that time off because of what seems to be maybe a lack of staff, or even just employee cruelty, they can't just pull that card. Also, if it's a lack of employees, you have undisclosed amounts of dollars to put into buying Psyonix, but you don't have that undisclosed amount of dollars to put into your staff team. Some other employees even said that the amount of overtime they work causes a toxic environment in the company. I understand that you shouldn't don't believe everything you read, but if this amount of overtime they work is true, then what's going to happen to the Psyonix employees? They did this with their own employees. What are they going to do to people who don't work for them but they still control? I don't think they will do this with Psyonix devs personally though, because not only have Psyonix apparently been working with them since 2001, but also it's the Psyonix team working on the game at the end of the day. Epic is just a launcher, meaning they are there to launch the game and find support for them. Whether it be financially or manpower, they are there to support them. An Epic representative also said, Psyonix has always been a part of the Epic family, and we're happy to make it official, meaning that they've been working together for quite a long time, and Epic basically just put their fat stacks in Psyonix's mouth. So I guess it's not all bad in terms of employees. I think Psyonix will be fine in terms of treatment. I don't think it will be as bad as people think it is anyway. A lot of YouTubers have talked on what happens to Rocket League rather than what happens to the devs, so I thought I'd inform you. Another thing that the creators missed is the good thing about Epic Games helping Psyonix. If you look at the Fortnite creators, you notice their codes, etc. The involvement from devs to creators has been insane on their previous products, so bringing something like the Fortnite creator code would now be entirely possible. That means better creator involvement in the game, better creator features like we saw with the replay system recently. I mean, I've used that system for thumbnails countless times in my live commentary videos, so for an established Rocket League creator, this must have been a huge change, and with Epic now at the wheel, more of that is likely to come. I don't think it will be instantaneous, although I'm thinking these new creator features may just be the start. I think Rocket League creators will now get what they deserve for putting the time and effort into these videos, and they may even be contacted by the game for sponsorships, since Psyonix couldn't afford that before. Maybe they can now. Even getting people like Jacksepticeye in the past, I'm sure if they reached out to him with a bit of cash, he wouldn't turn that down. And something like that would be a huge boost in popularity for Rocket League, and would show their care for the creators who popularised the game as it is. But onto something that's been a little controversial with this move, the question of going free to play. With Epic's business model being somewhat close to that and doing quite well for them, along with the boost in money from the deal, myself and a lot of other Rocket League players wouldn't be surprised if the game went free to play. Whether that's a good thing or not has been questioned by the community. We all agree that it may happen, but we don't agree on whether it should. Some people say we have enough toxic people in the community already and we don't need any more, which is true. There are a lot of toxic people in this game. But at this point, you can't really stop that. Partly because the game is not really aimed at adults. It's all inclusive, and so people who are just angered kids will scream and nice shot you forever in the game, since they can, and don't get looked down upon as much as in other games. But also because it's a game, and generally, people on the internet tend to be quite offensive, myself included. Along with that, you can't stop them from being annoying. The ranked playlist is quite agitating, so when people are toxic, it's because they're on a grind, really. In other words, I don't entirely agree with that point. You can't really remove the toxicity anyway. You already have a few ways to get rid of it, which, yes, aren't perfect, but they are a start, and I'm sure they'll focus on it in the future. The other point of view, however, is more players means more popularity, more people to play with, which, yes, is a good thing, not just for us, but for Psyonix. But again, the servers are already awful, with only this amount of players, and while the money might help there, it won't be instant, and the player growth might be. Also, more players means more Smurfs, and with it being free to play, it would be even worse, because they can be cheap and still be a Smurf now. It's already like that on console, and look how that turned out. While I personally have almost no problem with someone smurfing, I think it can be great if you do it for the right reasons. A lot of people disagree with me, and so smurfing could be quite a large problem here as well. So overall, I'm kind of in the middle in terms of whether I want to see it go free to play. I'd love to see my friends play the game and try it again because everyone else is playing it, or because it's free, but I also don't want more smurfs to the point of every game being with a smurf, because a few smurfs in some games is fine, but if they're everywhere, it does become an issue. And in terms of the deal overall, I think it is a good idea for Psyonix to take the deal because of the money and the things they can bring to the game, but I don't know whether taking the deal was something that the community would have wanted. I don't think there's any need to panic for creators or players, but I do think some sort of change is coming, and we'll have to wait as to whether or not it will be a good thing. Anyway, that's the end of the video. There's a button that's red and one that's grey, just a reminder. I hope you've enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.
Made of glass, it seems you're shattering a part of me, and I can take it. My heart is so hungry.